Daniel said there would be exactly 11 kings leading up to the destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans. Can you name them? And what does it have to do with Jesus? Let's look at that today on Extraordinary Evidence. Today, let's look at something really cool in the Bible. This is pretty crazy stuff. And we've been looking at the two prophetic threads that come together in the New Testament: the kingdom of God, or the eternal kingdom, and then the judgment on Judah. Now, if you're not familiar with these two threads, please go back and look at the last two videos. Our goal today is to show how these two threads knit together. And to do that, we'll overlay Daniel's visions on top of the New Testament to show how the puzzle comes together. Hundreds of years earlier, Daniel saw both the kingdom and the judgment. So Jesus started his ministry here in 27 AD. And we see in Luke chapter 4, early on in his ministry, he picked up the scroll of Isaiah and read from Isaiah 61. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the humble. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim release to captives and freedom to prisoners, to proclaim the favorable year of the Lord. He stopped here in the middle of verse 2 and said that part had been fulfilled in their hearing. Redemption from judgment had come to those who would humble themselves. A season of favor had arrived for a nation that found themselves under the curse of the law. He didn't point to the second part of the verse, which reads, "And the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn," until later in Luke 21, 20 through 24. But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then recognize that her desolation is near, because these are the days of vengeance, so that all things which have been written will be fulfilled. So Jesus was crucified in 30-31 AD at the hands of the Romans, in part as a substitute for the kingdom of Judah's death, also at the hands of the Romans. He sent out his servants to preach the good news of this redemption, but he said the people of Judah would fill up the measure of guilt of their fathers by killing the messengers that were sent to them, bringing judgment on that generation. The link between these two threads is that the judgment would mark the end of the temple age, judgment on the old covenant, and the start of the eternal kingdom, new covenant, the messianic age. Jesus shows us that in Matthew 16, verses 27 and 28, "For the Son of Man is going to come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and he will then repay every person according to his deeds." Truly I say to you, there are some of those who are standing here who will not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. But when would that repayment come? We know from history it was a full 40 years later, the exact span of a generation, that we saw Jerusalem and the temple destroyed in the First Jewish-Roman War by Emperor Vespasian and his son General Titus. Daniel said there would be 4 kingdoms and 11 kings leading up to the eternal kingdom. What would you think if those 11 kings in Daniel's vision led right to that judgment, right to the war with Rome under Emperor Vespasian? In chapter 2, Daniel saw a vision of a giant statue of 4 metals. The metals represented the 4 kingdoms that would reign over Judah in succession. A head of gold represented Babylon, chest and arms of silver represented Medo-Persia, belly and thighs of bronze represented Greece, and legs of iron represented Rome. Its feet were of iron mixed with pottery, representing a period of division and turmoil within the Roman Empire. A stone was cut out without human hands, representing a move of God. It hit the statue on his feet, meaning during this period of turmoil and division in the Roman Empire. And it crushed the entire statue and it blew away. Then the stone became a mountain that filled the entire earth. In verse 44, we're told what that stone means. "And in the days of those kings, the Roman kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which will never be destroyed. And that kingdom will not be left for another people. It will crush and put an end to all these kingdoms, but it will itself endure forever." Let's pause for a second to see how amazing this is. The eternal kingdom that had been promised for centuries was now being given a definite timeline within our history. The Word of God was about to be made flesh and come to life in our world. Chapter 7 exactly parallels chapter 2, but it adds more detail. In this vision, Daniel saw the same 4 kingdoms as fantastic beasts. A lion with eagle's wings represented Babylon. A bear represented Medo-Persia. A leopard with 4 heads and 4 wings represented Greece, and Rome was described as a terrible beast with 10 horns. Now, Daniel saw many things in the vision, but we'll jump down to the interpretation given by the angel. This is what he said: "The 4th beast will be a 4th kingdom on the earth. which will be different from all the other kingdoms, and will devour the whole earth and trample it down and crush it. As for the 10 horns, out of this kingdom 10 kings will arise, and another will arise after them, and he will be different from the previous ones and will humble 3 kings. And he will speak against the Most High and wear down the saints of the Highest One, and he will intend to make alterations in times and law, and they will be handed over to him for a time, times, and half a time. Time, times, and half a time is based on an Aramaic phrase that means 3.5 years. But the court will convene in judgment, and his dominion will be taken away, annihilated, and destroyed forever. Then the sovereignty, the dominion, and the greatness of all the kingdoms under the whole heaven will be given to the people of the saints of the Highest One. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all the empires will serve and obey him. So just like in chapter 2, we see the eternal kingdom following the Roman Empire and a period of conflict. We're not looking for the destruction of the Roman Empire, as many have supposed. It's saying world dominion would shift from Rome to the people who serve the Highest One. The Highest One is another title for the one like a son of man who was introduced in verses 13 and 14 of chapter 7. We covered that in the video on the kingdom. But just as we saw in Matthew 16, the Son of Man was the title Jesus most used for himself, pointing us back to this prophecy here in Daniel 7. This is a foundational passage for the truth of Christianity, because we can see here all the world chasing after this one like a Son of Man who has a throne in heaven and dominion on earth. But when does the passage say he would receive his kingdom? At the time of the conflict between the Jews and this 11th king. So if Vespasian is the emperor at the time of the judgment, there are several things that we would expect to see based on Daniel's prophecy. Number 1, he would be different from the previous kings. The emperors leading up to Vespasian were of the Julio-Claudian dynasty. Vespasian started the Flavian dynasty. 3 kings would be humbled or uprooted before him. The war lasted 7 years from 66 AD to 73 AD, but 2 years into the war in 68 AD, Nero committed suicide and the empire was plunged into a civil war. Remember the prophecy in chapter 2 of Rome's feet of iron and clay that would be divided and not adhere to one another just prior to the kingdom. The civil war is that period of division and turmoil in the Roman Empire just prior to the eternal kingdom. 3 men, Galba, Otho, and Vitellius, vied for the throne and were either killed or committed suicide before Vespasian ultimately claimed the throne. Up to that point, Vespasian had actually been the general leading Rome's military campaign throughout the kingdom of Judah, God's judgment, but he had not yet gotten to Jerusalem. The Jews would be given into his hand for 3.5 years. Vespasian claimed the throne in December of 69 AD, and he presided over the remainder of Rome's war with the Jews until April of 73 AD, fulfilling the 3.5 years. He would seek to change Jewish times and laws. In 70 AD, Vespasian's son, General Titus, led the siege on Jerusalem and ultimately destroyed the temple, where Jesus' words were fulfilled that no stone would be left upon another. The Jewish faith revolved around this temple, and that destruction has altered the Jewish faith to this day. He would be the 11th king, and from here we can fill out our list. Vespasian, the emperor at the time of the temple destruction, Vitellius, Otho, Galba, the 3 emperors who fell before him, Nero, whose suicide plunged the empire into a civil war, Claudius, Caligula, Tiberius, the emperor at the start of Jesus' ministry, Augustus, the emperor at Jesus' birth, Julius, and Pompey the Great, the leader who led Rome's annexation of Judea in 63 BC. Exactly 11 leaders from the time Judea was annexed to the judgment on Judah, all at the hands of the Romans. Now today we don't typically think of Pompey as a king. So how do we know Pompey is the first king on Daniel's list? Remember, Daniel gives more detail as you go through the book. Daniel chapters 10 through 12 form a unit that's also parallel to Daniel chapter 2. And it talks about what would happen within the lines of the kings of Persia, Greece, and Rome, leading up to the great conflict or great tribulation in chapter 12. The prophecy of Rome starts in chapter 11, verse 36. We can know that Daniel foretold Pompey in the line of kings because we find him there. Look at Daniel 11:41. He will also enter the beautiful land, and many countries will fall, but these will be rescued out of his hand: Edom, Moab, and the foremost of the sons of Ammon. At the time Judea was annexed by Rome, the lands of Edom, Moab, and Ammon were under Nabatean control. The Nabateans worked out a deal to pay tribute to Rome, but remain independent. They weren't actually annexed until the time of Emperor Trajan. So Daniel places Pompeii on the list. And now we can see how the Old Testament and the New Testament come together. To know when the kingdom would start, all we needed to know and to remember was that there would be 4 kingdoms and 11 kings leading right up to that judgment that ended the temple age and started the kingdom age at the end of Jesus' 40-year generation. So I hope you're starting to see what an amazing book the Bible is. And I hope we're starting to build some confidence that Jesus is who he says he is. In our next video, let's take a look at how this ties into the book of Revelation. Peace and good luck on your journey evaluating all the extraordinary evidence. We believe there's a mountain of evidence, so let's start at the base and climb all the way to the top.